right, so let's move into some of the Ask Ira mailbag questions. We got a lot of questions. I mean, there's so much going on with this team.
Sure.
They're really fun to watch. We hope this winning streak keeps going. So Julio in Cape Coral says, Ira, it seems that the Heat play on a more consistent level without Justice Winslow and Dion Waiters. Do you think that an offseason trade of these two for a star is possible?
Well, the one thing we know now, and obviously this question came in before we got the news today about Dion's impending surgery, is no one's trading for Dion Waiters. You're talking about the first year of a 4-year, $52 million contract with no payoff. Teams want to see him healthy, and we will not see him healthy at least to the start of training camp. The Justice Winslow thing, I think, is going to be a little more difficult. You don't give up on a young player who basically has played maybe 2 seasons when you look at his injuries. But this is what Erik Spoelstra has to do. He has to look at his roster and he says, I owe it to the other guys on this roster to continue to win. I think it's going to be very interesting. I have heard that Justice will be back on Sunday against Milwaukee. The Heat right now in the middle of a 3-day break. So when he comes back, I think we'll get a better sense of how Erik is going to use him, where he's going to use him. Obviously, we won't be seeing Dion Waiters anymore. So those photos are up for posterity right there. But it's going to be really interesting because Erik Spoelstra would have had to work these two guys back. And this is how cold fans are. People are going to me, good, Dion's out, it's easier. No, it's never easier losing talent, and Dion was that. But I am really curious. Justice Winslow, starting power forward this season to see where he winds up.
So what about the long term with these guys? Do both or either have a long-term future in Miami?
Well, I mean, here's the thing with Dion that I find so interesting. The only way you get value to trade a player is to showcase that player. So do the Heat still work Dion Waiters back in the rotation next season, or else you're not going to trade him? They're sitting on that contract. Or do you just say, hey, forget about how money is spent. We just spoke about Josh Richardson and the value contract, so that evens out. 1 Dion plus 1 Josh equals 2 average contracts, so you make that work. I'm going to be honest, I am fascinated to see how it plays out right now with Justice Winslow. Because, again, here's a guy who's drafted, lottery pick number 10 in 2015, helped the Heat be within 1 game of the Eastern Conference Finals in the 2016 playoffs, when you might remember he played center in Game 7 of that series as a guy who was drafted as a shooting guard and Dwayne Wade's eventual replacement. So I'm curious, you don't give up on him, but you also can't affect the chemistry. I think it's going to be, Emma Kate, a very delicate dance between Erik Spoelstra, between Justice Winslow, and between his teammates. I think Sunday will be fascinating to watch the minutes and watch the role.
Absolutely. All right, and now moving on to another player. Joe from Jupiter says, I was watching the Toronto game. My only thought on Bam Adebayo was, wow, it was a transcendent performance. What did you say?
Look, his energy that night when everyone else was injured or tired, and then James Johnson, we'll get to in a little, was ejected from that game. They were so shorthanded. This is when you realize the value of youth and what a player like Bam can do. He was a whirling dervish. He was all over the place. And then something happened in the game that was fascinating. For really the first time this season, he was played alongside Hassan Whiteside. And they flourished in that game. You could see the length that Bam provides you, the shot blocking, the rebounding, just the sort of energy he has going. So all of a sudden, both guys are from North Carolina. I just posted this story at sunsentinel.com. And Hassan goes, we've got to get a nickname. We're a thing now. So Bam comes up with pork and beans. You know, the famous dish down there in North Carolina, a cassoulet, I found out. I have no idea what that means. So he says, we're going with that nickname. Heat fans, I love Bam. I enjoy Hassan, but I think it's up to Heat fans out there to come up with a better nickname than pork and beans for Bam and Hassan. But more than anything, this works. In a league that keeps shrinking, you and I have spoken about small ball for weeks here, how you're playing smaller, you're using James Johnson, even Josh Richardson, as you mentioned, a power forward a little bit, that all of a sudden you can play 2 bigs and they can thrive. Anyone to question Bam Adebayo at number 14 in the draft last June, I think now is going, wow, that Pat Riley, Chet Kamara, and his staff, they know. And I think it was an inspired choice.
Of course. Pat Riley knows what he's doing. What about that?
Shocking.
All right, so there's some social media conjecture out there that Bam could be possibly forcing Hassan out, but I think you just proved that they're working well together.
And that's the thing is, Heat fans' patience level is unbelievable. 1 loss, 1 bad game. Yes, Hassan Whiteside has not been the absolute force we've seen in previous seasons. But you know what? In these last 2 games, Toronto and Indiana, Hassan has had 15 rebounds in each game. He's had 6 total blocks over the 2 games. That's all you need. Again, this is the ensemble Miami Heat. This team will not have an all-star. This team has a roster where no player has ever made the all-star team from this roster. So if you're saying, who's the Heat star? It's really strange, Emma Kate. The answer that Eric Spoelstra wants you to say is, no one is. They're all equal. The box score in Toronto, 8 players played, 7 players scored in double figures. That's the essence of what this team wants to be.
Yeah, and I think it's fun to watch like that because you never know who's going to step up, and I think it also gives the motivation to be that guy on a given night.
Yes, it does. The only problem is for all the parents out there watching, when you're saying, what jersey should I buy for my kid for the best Heat player? You're going to have to vote on that on your own. Yeah.
Very true. All right, next question. Nick from Coral Springs says, Ira, from some footage shown of Rodney McGruder getting some shooting reps at practice, it's noticeable that he has vastly improved his shooting stroke and has even put on some muscle mass. Do you see him starting at shooting guard alongside Richardson? Tyler Johnson has played well, but he is a great bench player, and I'm of the belief that Justice Winslow would be best suited as our backup point guard.
And that's the thing. You see all the possibilities of this roster. So we spoke about Dion Waiters not being there. What are they going to do? They have been fine these last 9 games. And now Rodney McGruder's coming back. Rodney will be back, I think, no later than the All-Star break, 3rd week of February, probably sooner. This is an energy guy. This is a hustle guy. This is a guy you don't have to call a single play for, and he will give you defense. He will give you corner 3-point shooting. He will give you effort. He fits in. He's like the universal donor. He's like the blood type that will transfuse any team. That's what Rodney is. They will be fine with him. Will he start again at small forward? Yeah, I think there's a chance. It makes sense. Like the Ask Ira questioner said, then you can move Josh Richardson to shooting guard after we just explained why he could be a small forward also, or even a power forward. Flexibility, it works for you. It'll reduce the minutes on the other guys. I think this will be the kind of boost. You say to yourself, okay, February's the trading deadline. The Heat have to make a deal. What's going to make them stronger? You know, Emma Kate, what might make them stronger is the injury list. That if Rodney McGruder returns from the injured list, that's their trade acquisition. That's their bonus guy. That's their +1 to have a winning record, to be on a 6-game winning streak, to be 7 games over 500, and then have a quality starter coming back. I think that's the kind of boost that can only benefit this team.
Absolutely.